The sound of tires crunching against gravel shattered the quiet morning. 5 black SUVs slowly rolled down the narrow street and stopped directly in front of a small, weather-beaten house. Neighbors peeked through curtains. Children froze on their bicycles. People whispered from porches, wondering what had happened. Inside the tiny house, a struggling single father named Mason Reed looked through the window and felt his heart sink. His hands trembled. Just 24 hours earlier, he had been worried about how he would buy groceries for his daughter. Now 5 luxury SUVs were parked outside his home. And the reason behind it all started with the last $18 in his wallet. Before we continue, if you believe kindness still exists in this world and that one good deed can change a life forever, please like this video, comment where you're watching from, share this story with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to Journey of Kindness for more heart-touching stories that restore faith in humanity. Mason Reed was 38 years old, but life had aged him beyond his years. The lines on his face told stories of sleepless nights, unpaid bills, and endless sacrifices. 5 years earlier, he had lost his wife, Claire, to a sudden illness. The loss shattered his world. Overnight, Mason became both father and mother to his 7-year-old daughter, Ava. Every morning before sunrise, he worked loading trucks at a warehouse on the edge of town. In the afternoons, he delivered groceries for extra income. At night, he repaired broken appliances for neighbors whenever he could find work. Despite working nearly every waking hour, money never seemed enough. The small house they lived in needed repairs. The refrigerator made strange noises. The roof leaked during heavy rain. And every month felt like a battle against bills that kept growing larger. Still, Mason never complained. Every sacrifice he made was for Ava. She was the reason he kept moving forward. She was the light that remained after so much darkness. One sunny afternoon, Mason picked Ava up from school and stopped at a small grocery store. He checked his bank account before entering. $18. That was everything. No paycheck until Friday. 3 days away. He stood silently in the parking lot calculating what he could buy. Bread, milk, eggs, maybe a few bananas. Nothing more. As he walked toward the entrance, he noticed an elderly man sitting alone on the curb near the store. The man looked exhausted. His clothes were clean but worn. His shoulders drooped under the weight of invisible burdens. Most people walked past him without a glance. Mason probably would have too if he hadn't noticed something unusual. The old man wasn't asking for money. He wasn't holding a sign. Instead, he stared at a faded photograph in his hands. And tears streamed down his face. Something about that image stopped Mason in his tracks. He approached cautiously. The elderly man looked up. His eyes were filled with heartbreak. Mason learned that the man's name was Walter Hayes. Walter explained that he had traveled across the state trying to reach his daughter after receiving news that she had been hospitalized. His car had broken down miles away. His phone battery had died. His wallet had been stolen during a crowded bus ride. Now he was stranded. Alone. With no way to continue his journey. Mason listened carefully. Part of him wondered if the story was true. The world had taught him to be cautious. Yet another part of him saw genuine pain in Walter's eyes. The kind of pain that couldn't be faked. He looked down at his daughter. Ava quietly held his hand. Without saying a word, she seemed to understand the moment. Mason reached into his wallet. He stared at the last $18 he owned. The money represented food for the next few days. It represented security. It represented survival. For several seconds he hesitated. Then he remembered something his wife used to say. Kindness matters most when it's difficult. Not when it's convenient. Taking a deep breath, Mason handed Walter every dollar. All 18. The elderly man's eyes widened. He looked shocked. Mason simply smiled. It wasn't much. But it was everything he had. Walter tried to refuse. Mason insisted. The old man finally accepted, his eyes shining with gratitude. Before leaving, Walter gripped Mason's hand tightly. There was something powerful in that handshake. Something Mason couldn't explain. Walter thanked him repeatedly before disappearing into the crowd. As father and daughter walked home, reality returned. Their grocery bags were nearly empty. Dinner that night was simple. Very simple. But Ava never complained. Instead, she hugged her father and told him she was proud of him. Those words meant more than any amount of money. Still, after she fell asleep, Mason sat alone at the kitchen table. The fear returned. Bills covered the surface like reminders of his struggle. The electricity payment was overdue. The mortgage was late. His truck needed repairs. For a moment he questioned his decision. Had he been irresponsible? Had he put his daughter at risk? The doubts lingered deep into the night. Eventually exhaustion pulled him into sleep. The next morning sunlight filtered through the curtains. Mason woke early. At first, everything seemed normal. Then he heard engines. Several of them. He walked toward the front window. And froze. 5 black SUVs had surrounded his property. People in dark suits stepped out. Neighbors gathered outside. Questions spread through the neighborhood like wildfire. Mason's pulse raced. He had no idea what was happening. His first thought was that some terrible mistake had occurred. Perhaps someone was looking for a criminal. Perhaps there had been an accident. Perhaps trouble had somehow found its way to his door. Then one of the suited men approached the front porch. The man knocked politely. Mason opened the door. What happened next would change his life forever. The suited man introduced himself as Nathan Cole. His calm voice immediately eased some of Mason's fears. Nathan explained that he represented a successful entrepreneur and philanthropist named Victor Langston. The name meant nothing to Mason. But it meant everything to the people standing behind those SUVs. Nathan then revealed a shocking truth. Walter Hayes was not a stranded traveler. At least not entirely. Walter was Victor Langston's father. Victor had built one of the largest transportation companies in the country. Despite his wealth, Victor worried that success had distanced his family from ordinary people. Months earlier, Walter proposed a unique experiment. He wanted to travel anonymously and observe how strangers treated one another. Not everyone was aware of the project. Only a small circle knew. During the journey, Walter encountered hundreds of people. Many ignored him. Some doubted him. Others walked away. Then he met Mason, a struggling single father who gave away his last $18 despite having almost nothing himself. Walter had immediately reported the encounter to Victor. The story moved him deeply. Not because of the amount, but because of the sacrifice. Many wealthy people donate money they can spare. Very few people give when giving actually hurts. Victor believed that character revealed itself during moments like that. Nathan handed Mason an envelope. His hands shook as he opened it. Inside was a letter. And something else. A certified check. Mason stared at the number. He blinked repeatedly. Certain he was imagining it. The amount was enough to pay off every debt he owed. Enough to repair his home. Enough to create savings for Ava's future. Enough to breathe again. For the first time in years, tears filled his eyes. Not tears of sadness. Tears of relief. Tears of hope. But the greatest surprise had not yet arrived. Nathan explained that Victor had another request. He wanted Mason to help lead a new charitable initiative focused on struggling single parents. Victor believed Mason understood hardship better than most executives ever could. The position came with a stable salary, benefits, and the opportunity to help thousands of families facing challenges similar to his own. Mason stood speechless. One act of kindness had opened a door he never imagined existed. Over the following months, everything changed. The house was repaired. The stress that had weighed on his shoulders slowly disappeared. Ava had opportunities he once feared he could never provide. Most importantly, Mason dedicated himself to helping others. Every family he assisted reminded him of where he had come from. Every life he touched became part of a growing chain of kindness. Years later, when people asked how his life changed, Mason never talked about the money first. He talked about $18. He talked about a stranger sitting on a curb. He talked about a choice made during one difficult afternoon. Because the real miracle wasn't the reward. The miracle was choosing kindness before knowing there would be one. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like the video, leave a comment, and share it with someone who still believes good people exist in this world. Special request. Comment below with the words, "Kindness comes back," if you believe even the smallest act of compassion can change someone's life forever. Mason's story reminds us that we may never know what battles others are fighting or what impact our actions may have. Sometimes the smallest sacrifice creates the biggest ripple. Sometimes a few dollars, a helping hand, or a moment of compassion becomes the turning point in someone's life. And sometimes, when kindness is given without expecting anything in return, life finds an extraordinary way to return that kindness when it is needed most. Thank you for being part of the journey of kindness. May this story inspire you to carry kindness wherever you go, because one simple act could change a life, including your own.